Alright, good morning, I'm Carlos the King, StansStrength.com, and in today's video, I'm going to be doing another program review. I'm actually really liking doing these program reviews simply because I don't really have to think too much about it. I can kind of just while not necessarily pull things out my ass, but just kind of share more of my perspectives, more of my personality, than it's something where I'm trying to be as informative as possible. But here I'm just able to kind of look at something, review it, and share with you my first thoughts. And because of that, it just comes out as very unfiltered. And mistakes that I make are things that I would have to examine upon and think about and spend more time with. And things that I truly believe are able to be better expressed. I'm able to learn how to really think about what it is that I'm actually going to be preaching on this channel and really make it a more solid idea that I'm able to then make better content from. So essentially this is kind of like my training as far as like it comes to being a content creator, if I can even call myself that, or even if I even want to. I mean, yeah. But anyway, we're gonna go into the next program on this list. So I already did the PHUL workout program spreadsheet. I've already done the Kaizen 4-week power building spreadsheet. Out of these two, I think they're both very suboptimal for what I think is optimal or good power building. I'm not a big fan of either one of these programs, even though I'm a big fan of the people who made the Kaizen program, and I am a big fan of many concepts that are used in PHUL. I think they're just misapplied because everything is a kind of like a balancing act. Everything that has a strength has a downside, and the weaknesses of your strengths have to be acknowledged, and if they're not, then they just get ignored. And then when you run into a problem, you really just wonder like, oh shit, how did I not see this coming? When did this happen? How did we get here? Where did it come from? Where did it go? Like, what are you going to do then, right? And that's something that you have to kind of think about and consider when you're making your programs. You need to consider the downsides of what you're making. And you're never going to have a program that is all upsides. If there was a program that was just completely all upsides, then that's how literally everyone would train. And I'm pretty sure we kind of find that out since barbell training started to become a thing in the mid to early 1900s. And we would have figured out like there's a way to maximize everything. Everything is kind of a give and take of trying to get what you want, but measuring it at what you're losing. That's kind of how you want to be thinking about your programming. Are the downsides worth the upsides? And if the answer is no, do a different program or change things within the program. But that can all go into its own separate videos, and we're gonna move on from there. So yep, PHATburn, PHATburn program spreadsheet. Let's go. Fat. So let's see. PHATburn is a challenging program for advanced athletes. So right there, that's actually a really good distinction, because not every program should be done for every type of lifter. However, what I will say is, if you look up top though, experience level, intermediate, and periodization type, linear. So this is just kind of like nitpicking, to be honest, but generally speaking, all types of periodization are linear. Like there's a level of linearity across all different types of periodization, but linear is just kind of smooth linear progression, periodization, and that's about the biggest difference in my personal opinion. Obviously, there are a lot of nuances when you talk about the ideas themselves, but once you start just kind of going into the pragmatism or the functionality of it, it becomes you are able to oversimplify it at the danger of oversimplifying it, but you know, it's whatever. All right. So, established by Doug Hepburn as a power building routine that blends heavyweight work of powerlifting training with hypertrophy-inducing volume of bodybuilding training, power building. PHATburn is a challenging program for advanced athletes looking to introduce more volume into your off-season training. This is what you may be looking for. Captain Sarcasmo, that's actually a sick-ass username. Congratulations. Never meant to be a routine for other people to attempt, and was only created to capture what was working for himself for 38 weeks. The program was only ever meant to be fun, not a good routine. That's a really good distinction, because the things that you want to have accomplished in your program are going to be very different for person to person, and that's why programming for yourself is obviously the most optimal. And if you hire a coach who is going to be making a program from you, the number one thing they should be doing is first trying to understand you as best as they possibly can during a set amount of time, and then kind of keeping an eye on you as you run through the program to kind of learn more about you, so that way after maybe 3-4 months, the program is very much catered to you, so that way rather than you having to spend 4 months learning about how to program, you're able to have someone present with you who is learning about you as you're learning about yourself, and then you're able to create a program together. So that's what I think should be the function of a coach. That's what I think is the value of a coach. So having a program that was only ever meant to be fun, not a good routine, because that's kind of already stated, I by default I have to be a bit more lenient with how I talk about this method or this program, simply because if the program was made with the intention to be fun and not a good routine, I don't want to say it excuses it from being a not good routine, but there's like you have to give the devil his due. You gotta make some exceptions when it's kind of written into the program. So for example, if you were trying to make a program that is a good routine because it is as fun as it possibly can be, I'm going to roast the shit out of that program. But this one, hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say, and we'll move on from there. So 6 training sessions per week, 3 strength training sessions, 3 hypertrophy sessions. So when it comes to strength training, even when it comes to size training, recovery is a huge issue. If you're training frequently, chances are your training sessions aren't very long. Or at least they shouldn't be very long. Like if you're training like an hour and a half to 2 hours or more 6 days a week, and you're trying to have strength training sessions and high volume sessions, like you better be bulking like a motherfucker. You better be sleeping like plus 8 hours to kind of get away with that. If that's because it's like hard training, and when I say hard training, I mean in both the context of strength and size training. It's hard training. You need to recover from it, and generally speaking, your body is not just this machine that's going to recover after a workout after an hour. If you train seriously, you'll know that. So another program where it's 6 training days a week and 3 strength training sessions, 3 hypertrophy sessions. So let's go into the program. So PHATburn pulling movement A, deadlift, 8 sets of 2 to 3 reps. I do like the set and rep range. I think this is pretty good. But a couple things that I'm already having issues with is just look at the number of exercises you're doing. And I'm trying to think to myself, because for one, I looking at it, I'm pretty sure that this actually isn't written in a way that's like, so for example, this is all one day. I hope that this isn't how it's supposed to be done, but let me kind of look over it and see what's going on. So 2 minutes rest, speed triples, 45 seconds rest, semi-strict, not to failure, no more than last set to failure, superset. So it's like color coded. Let's see. PHATburn week 1, 3-3-2-2-2, rest 5 minutes, 6-6-6. Nani? Nani the fuck? Kind of regretting my choice of reviewing this program, simply because I don't want to misrepresent a program that I'm judging. If I'm judging a program and I don't fully understand it, I'm not actually judging the program anymore. I'm just judging my perceptions of it, and that's not the same thing, and I don't want it to be the same thing. But let's see. So I'm actually kind of curious as to how I should review this. Week 1, 3-3-2-2-2. Is this like your reps? Is this because like here it says 2 to 3 reps? So week 1, 3 reps. But then, or let's see. So 8 sets, 2 to 3. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. Okay, so you're going to do 2 sets of 3, followed by 6 sets of 2, and you're going to be resting 120 seconds. I got it, bitches. All right, or friends. But anyway, with that, I like how it's an evolving rep range where, let's see, so from week 1 to week 2, you're staying within the same rep range, but now you're going to be able to push progression by adding reps before adding weight. I like that a lot. So yes, okay, I think I'm starting to understand the program, and now I can judge this thing with the full intent and power that is available to me, and that's not much. So 666 means for these two, you're going to be doing 3 sets of 6. You're doing straight sets across. Then the next week you're going to add 1 rep to the first and second set, and then do 6 again, and then you're going to do 8, 7, 7, and go from there. And let's see, so rest 5 minutes. So generally speaking, I really do like this. This being a strength workout, this is really like how you're supposed to train for strength. Like, you're not going to be doing too much fluff, to be honest. At least you shouldn't be, because the amount of intensity that you're using makes that less feasible, and that's kind of like why that's why strength training athletes tend to use close variations and less exercise variations per workout. That's the reason why. Now, it's the law of specificity, things of that nature. But with that being said, you are going to do 11 sets for the same exercise, and then you're going to follow that up with, well, 15 sets of accessories. And you can superset all this, honestly. Let's see. Wide grip, pull-up, shrug, Yates row. Semi-strict, not to failure. So the problem with this that I have is the fact that, let's see. Pull-up, T-bar row. It's kind of like greedy in the sense that you're trying to do every single exercise for every single session, and I would much rather just have kind of like, let's say, type here, choose one. Either do pull-ups, T-bar rows, and a pull-apart, or do wide grip pull-up, shrugs, and Yates row, and then you have the sets and reps be the exact same for both, and just choose one. The reason being is this is probably going to take a long time already. Like, for most people, and this is more so a function of not really time constraint, but just like what they can just mentally handle in terms of their level of fatigue accumulation per workout. So if after 45 minutes you're just like gassed, because I do have clients who after that 45-minute mark, whether as a nature of the program, the exercise selections and whatnot, after 45 minutes they're very much close to spent. So after that point, I make sure that in their program the movements afterwards aren't nearly as taxing mentally or physically. So for example, if it's a lower body day and they're just taxed, well, I'll have them do something like back extensions, leg presses, or movements such as those, because the amount of systemic or neurological fatigue you're accumulating from that is a lot less than something like T-bar rows, heavy shrugs. And obviously he doesn't say that these should be done heavy, but I think that intensity is something that is, first of all, determined by the sets and reps you're using, but also the exercise itself. Why would you do a 1 rep max bicep curl if you're not a strict bicep curl competitor? If you're just trying to build the bicep, then it's that movement lends itself to different rep ranges and different intensities. So that's that idea there. So I would cut down the sets a little bit. Let's see, for 2 to 3 reps, and let's go from a strength. So for power building, me personally, I would put this in the 2 to 4 rep range, simply because if you're going to be doing it again in a different rep range and you do another, let's say, so you're doing this in 2 to 4 and then you're doing this in 2 to 4, I think that's a lot better because you're still doing the same movements essentially, but you're doing them in different rep ranges, so different intensities. If this was just a strictly like power lifting program, then I think 6 to 8 sets per exercise makes a lot more sense. But for power building, and like this is a strength workout too, so that excuses perhaps this portion of the workout, but as a strength day, it doesn't really make sense to me to have so much exercise variations on that day, simply because, for one, these are working the same muscles. Pull up, wide grip, pull up. These are working the same muscles essentially. Ever since whenever I do T-bar rows, it's a T-bar row to me is a lot more trap than it is lats. And then pull aparts, Yates row, those are very different, but still, like, that's 15 more sets on top of 22 sets. So in this workout alone, forgive my math, but you're doing like 37 sets. And you're training 6 days a week. 37 sets on day one, and you still have 5 more days of that program. And I'm going to go out on a limb here because I can see this. And I'm going to say that they're pretty much like all going to follow that template and program. And let's see. So you have 3 strength training days. Rest. So it's a 8-day program because your rest day is actually going to be, it's going to change week to week because you rest after every 3 days. And each day will just kind of run into that same program, and a very similar program that I discussed in like my previous power building reviews. A lot of power building programs really are just bodybuilding, and like badly programmed powerlifting and badly programmed bodybuilding just smushed together. And the issue is with it is this: they're taking the pieces of the puzzle for both, and they're just jamming them together without taking into consideration how they would best fit. And you can say it's power building because I'm taking elements that work for both, or that work for both exclusively or respectively for both, and then just trying to mix them together. And that's not how power building is. It's taking the pieces of the puzzle that actually allow them to fit in with one another, you know? And that's very different from this. But like I said, if this is how he likes to train, if he can handle this, if you can handle this, and if you find this enjoyable and you can be consistent with this, that's more important than really much else. If you're progressing and you're being consistent and you're not going into these prolonged needs of dips and valleys of deloading and unnecessary peaking where you just injure yourself, then I have no real objection beyond that. Besides, it doesn't really capture what I think ideal power building should look like. And it's not, and this is, and I'm very fortunate that I'm actually able to test out a lot of my ideas and theories on not only myself over the past couple of years, but also I'm able to share it with clients and see success. And obviously, when they're a beginner, I have to be very careful because, you know, they're a beginner. Anything's going to work for them. So it's kind of hard to say that my method works because it's so well written. I have the confidence to say that, but I also have to be very careful and acknowledge that they're a beginner. So how much of it am I getting away with, or how much of my mistakes am I getting away with because they're a beginner? I need to be very aware of that as a coach. But where with my more long-term clients, because I'm able to test things out, try different things, try things out on myself as well, and I've been able to develop my power building philosophy and see it work for them as they leave the novice stage, as just smooth linear progression just stops working for them. That is kind of what has given me the confidence to say, I don't think this is ideal for power building. So the pressing strength day and the squat strength day, they run into the same issues that I have here. But generally speaking, it really is like, this is a good strength workout, and then this is a pure bodybuilding workout essentially, and you're just smashing them together, and like you can't really call it a pure strength day anymore at that point. Let's go into hypertrophy. Everything's high rep, and let's see. These are speed pulls or over warm heavy. Interesting words there, but you're doing sets of 3, then all of a sudden going into the 8 to 12 plus rep range. I do like how there's band pull aparts. This is really good for, you know, building up the muscle itself, but also like keeping that. Usually when you do band pull aparts, it's for the rear delt and shoulder girdle, so that'll keep it nice and healthy, and that's good. I like that. However, it's just kind of throwing everything into the kitchen sink and just doing it into a higher rep range and calling it bodybuilding. So, like I said, what I would much rather see is just like, let's say choose one of these, right? And for the accessory work on top of this main work, right? And then move this over to a hypertrophy day, and you'll find that because a lot of the exercises are similar, you just take those out and everything else kind of moves up and puts itself there. So this is probably going to be like the shortest review, simply because each day there's no difference in the training, the underlying training principles and philosophies for each day, which is generally a good thing. But because it's just a weakness of the program, in my opinion, there's not really much else I can add as far as a critique. It's really just all squats and like quad and then one hamstring exercise or two, and then going from there and whatnot. But not really ideal to what I think power building could be and should be, because I think power building gets a bad rap simply because most power building programs are built like this. I think that power building done properly is not 2 goals, it's 1. Because main critique or criticism of power building is that you would maximize both if you just specialized, if you spent certain amounts of time specializing in either one. And there are some well-respected coaches who can say that you can just do a strength-size hybrid for your entire training career and move on from there. I am one of those coaches who agrees to that kind of thinking. But there are those who would say that if you want to maximize size and strength, spend time maximizing size and then spend time maximizing strength. The main reason why I'm not too fond of that way of thinking is that when you maximize one, you're setting the other to 0. And obviously that's oversimplification and exaggeration, because you're really just putting that on maintenance, and you're going to maintain most of the gains that you received on that specialization phase of size or strength. But the reason why I'm not the biggest fan of it is because I don't want to be the trainee that goes from carrot to carrot, and then just moving on from there. I'd much rather kind of think of myself as the rabbit who is getting a carrot and stockpiling it and saving it for the winter. So that way I will always have a supply of carrots, and I'm always going to like survive when things get rough, right? And with that metaphor, what it essentially means is that I'm like being stingy. Like, obviously being greedy in your training is a sin in my opinion, and I will be making a video discussing that. But you really don't want to just, like, let's say you go from a size focus phase and then you go into, or a strength focus phase and then you go into a size focus phase. Your top level strength is going to drop. And then what do you have to do? You have to go back to that level and then slightly go above it, just so you can say my next size phase will be more effective because I'm slightly stronger. When in my opinion, you could have just kind of maintained that, or even and built, or more ideally built above it then as well, and maybe you're not getting as much size gains, or you're not progressing in strength nearly as fast. And the reason why you're not progressing nearly as fast in strength gains is because you had to take so much steps back just to get that small increase. But you're able to just kind of maintain it, build upon it, and then that will feed into your size training if programmed correctly. So when people say that a lot of power building programs have that issue, I 100% agree. There are issues in power building, and that's why I make this channel. That's why I review these programs, because if the goal is strength and size, you need to consider the conflicts between the two if you're going to maximize either one. And that's something I just feel is missing from a lot of power builders, a lot of power building training. And like I said, if it works for them, it works for them, and that's all good and dandy. But if we're going to try to make power building more standardized, more respected, and more intelligent in its approach moving forward, these are things we have to consider, and that's kind of my mission as far as this channel and these videos that I want to do. So, rambled on and ranted at the end there, but is this a good program? It has good elements, but D, like a flat D, like as far as like power building programs. And remember, these gradings are very arbitrary, and really they're just upon my own grading scale, so they carry literally no value outside of myself. So I would just call this a D, and if you agree with my thoughts, then perhaps you would too. But the thing is about any program that I review is that how would you make it better? That's the real key about these program reviews, is asking yourself, how would you make this program better? Because generally speaking, what my goal is, whatever program you're using, is just over time make it better. Refine it to yourself. Rather than going from training system to training system, training philosophy to training philosophy, you stick with something and incorporate the something from something useful from another system and slowly change it over time. It's kind of like the ship of Theseus, right? Over time, wood and rot accumulates, and you have to replace the ship, and eventually, no more. Even if none of the original pieces are part of that ship anymore, are you still the ship of Theseus? Are you still going to where you want to be? Are you still who you could be, who you are, whatnot? And the answer is yes. So that's the video. I'm gonna cut it there. That was very Filipino of me, because like, the kids want to go home, but the parents just keep talking and saying goodbye for 2 hours. But that is it. I'm Kurelsa King, stanstrength.com. If you like the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Share the videos. It would really help out. And I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. I was expecting literally 0 views for about a year before seeing any kind of regular viewing in my videos. But for those who are watching consistently, I am very grateful. So thank you so much for that. Have a good day.